The other one was Tumamina. There is no accountability, none whatsoever. He uses this platform to just come and waffle. He says he's going to create jobs, but he doesn't tell us where and how. He says infrastructure is going to be developed. So much money has been put aside. Where and how? So there's no plan. It's just utterances that he just makes passing time, and then knowing very well that he will not be challenged by those he's governing with.
You look at the plan that is put forward in relation to investing 940 billion rand over the next 10 years towards infrastructure. Do you not think that will take us out of the low growth levels?
He has spoken about giving the disaster there in KZN 1 billion. Those houses are still not built. He has spoken about building 1 million houses in Alexander. Those houses are not built. So whatever 900 million is talking about, you must know that he's just passing time. He's not the man who follows through what he committed during the State of the Nation address.
The Transformation Fund is promising for the next 5 years, every year they will set aside about 20 billion rand.
He's still saying we're going to make sure that we develop the guidelines to make sure that it is not subjected to red tapes and all manner of things. Monies have been committed before. I mean, we're still talking about water today. We spoke about water during the Guyana project. When he became the president, one of the things we said to him was the completion of the Guyana project. Till today, the project has not been implemented. Very good at putting figures, throwing numbers. Even during COVID, he was every speech putting numbers. But we have never seen any legacy of those billions that he spoke about, even during COVID.
If you look at the pronouncements around the finalization of the industrial policy, as well as making the mining rights application transparent, it's something that the AFF has been actually, it's close to your heart, if I can put it that way. Are you happy that perhaps maybe he's starting to navigate himself towards your thinking as a party?
He needs to give people permits so that they can mine in this country and stop this bureaucracy and corruption that is in the mineral department. We must make sure our people have got the rights, permission to mine. And we must formalize the so-called illegal miners, especially where there is potential and the land is safe. We want beneficiation to happen here in South Africa. He speaks about beneficiation all the time he gets bored, but we have not done anything about beneficiation. We will never create jobs if we don't beneficiate in South Africa and if we don't industrialize. As things are now, we're deindustrializing the South African economy and at the same time talk about creation of jobs. So you can be guaranteed there is no concrete plan on creating jobs in South Africa. Concrete plan. He says we must come and work closer to where we work. But what has he done about Alexander, which he has committed to help? He's just talking. He's not going to bring anyone closer to where they work, because the people who own the land closer to where we work is white people. He's not going to expropriate that land. He's just baffling about it.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we all know that what Julius Malema said, and this follows the EFF statement on the 2025 State of the National Address. Economic freedom fighters reject with contempt the directionless and incoherent State of the National Address, Sona, delivered by Cyril Ramaphosa. The Sona was nothing but a desperate attempt to mask the catastrophic failure of the neoliberal right-wing so-called Government of National Unity, GNU. Since the formation of the GNU, this unholy alliance between the African National Congress and the racist, what they called it, Democratic Alliance, DA, has delivered nothing but chorus, regression and suffering for the people of South Africa, particularly workers and the poor. The GNU was supposedly established to stabilize the economy, promote economic growth, reduce poverty, and build a capable and ethical state. Yet, in every measurable aspect in the failure this dismally. When opening the 7th administration in July 2024, Ramaphosa boldly proclaimed that the GNU would press inclusive economic growth at the center of its agenda. This was supposedly meant to drive job creation, empowerment black South Africans, and uplift the most vulnerable. However, South Africa's economy remained in a dire state, with economic growth averaging below 1.5% annually and projected to growth by less than 2% over the next 3 years. Instead of implementing bold state-led industrial policies that the GNU has left South Africa economy at the mercy of white-owned private business that prioritize profits over national development, while the masses remain jobless and impoverished. The cost of living crisis has worsened, with inflation pushing workers' class families to the brink of survival. Just last week, there was an approved 12.7% hike in electric tariff set to take effect in April, and an increase in fuel price by 7 cents per liter. The most urgently crisis facing this nation is unemployment, yet Ramaphosa failed to provide a concrete plan to address this national economic security threat. Unemployment continues to rise, particularly among black women and young people, who were promised in previous address that they would be a priority. The official unemployment rate stands at 32.1%, but this figure does not reflect the full extent of economic exclusion, staggering 3.5 million, equal to 34% of youth aged 15 to 24 are excluded from employment, education, or training. Black Africans face an unemployment rate of 36.1%, higher than the national average, with nearly 39% of black African women unable to find jobs. Even graduate unemployment has risen to 9.8%, proving that higher economic education is no longer a safeguard against economic hardship. Despite this dire circumstance, Ramaphosa continued to deceive the nation by claiming that presidential employment stimulus has succeeded. This is a blatant lie. The program has completely failed, as evidenced by the continued high level of joblessness, particularly among the youth. The GNU has no real plan to create jobs, and its so-called meaningful partnership are nothing but empty rhetoric, as business continue to pull in different directions, holding their wealth in offshore accounts instead of investing in South African economy. Furthermore, the GNU has adopted the so-called medium-term development plan, with explaining what happened to the National Development Plan (NDP), or acknowledging the failure of what was essential, a misguided and impractical policy. This deliberate erasure of previous commitment is nothing more than an attempt to hide decades of neoliberal economic mismanagement under the ANC and DA. Ramaphosa is continuing the privatization of energy rather than rebuilding and solidifying ESCOM for national energy security and sovereignty. The ongoing unbundling of ESCOM will not solve the energy crisis, but will instead press South Africa's energy failure in the hands of profit-driven corporations that will exploit the peoples for financial gain. The GNU is deliberately weakening ESCOM so that the private sectors can take over, despite the disastrous consequences that this has had in other developing economy. The allocation of Rand 940 billion for infrastructures development is woefully inadequate given the extent of infrastructure's collapse and backlog, particularly in water supply, roads, and healthcare facilities. The EFF depends that the government significantly increase infrastructure spending, prioritizing maintenance, refurbishment, and rebuilding through state-owned companies to eliminate the need for tenders, inflated price, and poor management of projects. This outsourcing of essential infrastructure projects to private contractors has led to rampant corruption, poor quality services delivery, and wasted public fund. State-owned entities such as ESCOM, Transcend, and others will not function effectively, as Ramaphosa claims, because this administration is actively privatizing everything instead of rebuilding state capacity to ensure South Africa is not dependent on the private sector for critical areas of economic growth and job creation. We do not need a transformation fund. We need state-owned initiatives that will facilitate the transfer of wealth to the major of South Africans, starting with land redistribution. South Africa remains the most industrialized economy in Africa, yet this industrialization was state-led and apartheid, using state-owned entities that the GNU is now deliberately collapsing. The so-called structural reform under Ramaphosa's administration are nothing more than a continuation of failure, the neoliberal policies that have stripped the state of its capacity to drive development. Instead of protecting key industries, the GNU is creating avenues for private companies to infiltrate and eventually take over essential services, prioritizing profit over public wealth. The National State Enterprises Bill, introduced by Minister Ramaphosa, is a clear that attempted to facilitate full-scale privatization under the deceptive guise of restructuring. This bill proposed centering all state assets and the State Asset Management SOC, which will detect the operation of SOEs and a central approval plan. This model does not strengthen SOEs, it stripped them of their economies and opened the floodgates for private sector interference. The failure of municipalities under the GNU is another clear indication that this government is incapable of governance. The Inkatha Freedom Party, IFP, which oversees the Minister of Cooperative Government and Trading Affairs, has failed dismally to address services delivery failure. Municipalities are plagued by corruption, mismanagement, and a lack of capacity. Instead of developing internal municipal capacity, billions are wasted on consultants with 1.3 rand billion spent on financial statement prepared alone and rand 25 billion recorded in irregular expenditure. This reckless misuse of public funds is further proud that the GNU has no interest in genuine services delivery. Furthermore, DA's municipalities in Cape Town are mired in tender corruption and state capture with fraudulent housing tenders implicating mayor committees members including JP Smith, fraud change against the former DA official Malusi Bowie, further exposed the DA's deep-rooted looting public resources. The DA has facilitated corruption exceeding 1 rand billion in the housing and construction sectors, worsening Cape Town's housing crisis and leaving thousands without homes. The EFF will not stand idle with the ANC and DA destroy the gains of our democratic revolution. We demand an end to the privatization agenda, the immediate strategy strengthening of SOEs, and a clear plan for economic transformation that prioritizing black empowerment, job creation, and services delivery. We call all on South Africans to reject this corruption, violence, visionless, and incompetent coalition. So, brothers and sisters, so this is what the statement from the left-wing political party in EFF to the President Ramaphosa addressed in this 2025 State of the Nation address. So what you have in the comment section, please let us know what you think. This is the power of Pan-Africanism. Let us share this together. Thank you.